Hey guys, welcome back to General Games Legacy Saturday event. I'm Sam Loy, here's Graham King, and we're here with your final.
And yeah, what a final it is. We've got Stephen Capavilla playing Reanimator, or Pimpinator as he likes to call it once again, and Leon Raymond playing the Team Australia version of Grixis Delver.
Yep, we see a couple of before game actions there. Two Chancellors of the Annex, meaning that the first spell that Leon has to play this game, he has to pay an extra 1 for each of those, so 2 mana to get it to resolve.
Fortunately, it only triggers once, so
only triggers once, yeah.
That's pretty good. It just means he needs to be very careful about what that first spell that he fires off is.
Yeah, hopefully something, you know, well, he'll probably just want to get something counted, something that doesn't really matter too much.
Now, for those of you not in the know, Team Australia is a variety of Grixis Delver, which was pioneered by Stephen Stamopoulos, and what we're looking at is two Tombstalkers in the main deck over the Gurmag Angler, just for the ability of it to go way over the top of the other decks, whereas a lot of the time just Gurmag Angler got bogged up on the board and got blocked all day. It's just a better finisher.
Yeah, it's a good interaction with things like True Name Nemesis, which can block forever, and things like Delver of Secrets, which you can now block with it as well. So Grizzlebrand discarded on the first turn to hand size. Always a cool play.
Yeah, so you've got to be a little bit worried when your opponent does that, because it means, well, actually, it's probably good because it means that they don't have a discard spell, but it means that they've probably got a few counter spells floating around on the back end as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Deathrite Shaman met with the Force of Will here. Deathrite Shaman, obviously an extremely problematic permanent for the blue-black Reanimator Pimpinator deck.
Definitely, and it's quite good. Just the Delver deck has so many ways to interact with the Reanimator deck. It's kind of the deck that Delver was made to build, just a combo deck that's trying to rely on resolving a spell.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. So that being said, do you think Team Australia is the better deck to be in this matchup?
It feels like it would be. Obviously, there are some powerful plays that Stephen can make as well. There's usually a him to Turak in the Delver list. It doesn't look like Leon is playing it in this case, but cards like that can be quite problematic when you've got a deck that relies on getting its best cards into its graveyard anyway, though.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a random choice. It's you know, it's a bit of spinning the wheel there, but obviously loses some effect when you do want to have cards in your graveyard anyway. So the blue-black Reanimator deck finally hits its second land drop, while Team Australia, in the hands of Leon Raymond, is still here on 1 mana, although he's using it quite well. And here we have a Reanimate.
So we've got a Force and we've got a Daze backup.
There we go.
We'll see what happens here. Looks like that one resolves, so Stephen getting into the driver's seat.
Yep,
and,
off to the races with the Grizzlebrand, likely to hit play in a second here. And yeah, here we go. So 10 life, so he's got enough space to draw his 7 cards, but he does have to worry about Lightning Bolt coming from the other side of the table. So it looks like he's opted to just wait, and you know, if he's forced to draw the 7, he can.
That's right. Now, on Leon's side of the table, he does have a Stifle there, so he can't stifle the lifelink trigger like you used to be able to, but he can stop Stephen drawing the 7 cards at least once, and it means that he won't still has to pay the life because that's the cost rather than part of the effect.
Graham King with the huge shout back to when lifelink was a triggered ability. When was that, 10 years ago about?
Yeah, I've been playing a little bit too long. Yeah.
All right. So Grizzlebrand starting to get Leon into the dangerous amount of life. He's good to take another hit here, but there's very few answers to a big threat. This is something we've seen a lot of today. These decks resolving something which is above 4 mana cost, and thus being immune to Fatal Push and all its forms. There's not that much stuff that's answering it from these Delver decks, and there's a few people in the room taking advantage of that.
Just trying to resolve 3 lightning bolts on a Grizzlebrand is not where you really want to be.
No, that's not a good time. All right, so here we see a Tombstalker. That's going to at least, you know, time walk the Grizzlebrand, so to speak,
for at least a turn.
For a turn, and stop Stephen from just carrying completely away with this game. that being said, okay, it looks like the Tombstalker is still on the stack here, and Grizzlebrand is being activated to draw 7 cards. I think this is a very safe position in which to do this, and it looks like he has hit the force.
It just shows how powerful as well that Grizzlebrand is, even without having the ability to draw 7 for these earlier turns. You can just beat in, and it's got 7 power and 7 toughness.
Yeah, it looks like he's really picked his spot here as well. And despite the fact he's going to 2 life, it's not really going to matter that much here. So he's going to go back up to 9. Leon's going to go to 3 from this attack. And at that point, I don't think that he has any outs. He can't cast a follow-up Tombstalker. And nothing else blocks a flyer, unfortunately, on the first turn.
Nice.
Delver has to wait a turn, and
Delver
he has no
does as
removal.
well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's just going to lean on that Grizzlebrand, and I think the writing is on the wall for Leon here. But we'll just see what the next couple of things is. It looks
like he's got a Collective Brutality in his hand there.
Yeah, just make 100% certain there's not anything which is going to catch him by surprise hidden in the main deck.
Yeah, we're playing for some reasonable prizes at this point. It's pretty free to do, so you might as well. So I imagine this is a drain for 2 and remove a instant or sorcery from the hand, and shows him the True Name Nemesis along with the Spell Pierce and packs them up.
Yeah, so we're going to see quite a transfer on the Team Australia side of the board. There's just a lot of creatures which don't really do that much, the True Name Nemesis being one of them. I think it's just a little bit too slow here, and
yeah, I mean, you have True Name Nemesis because it's hard to interact with, but the the reanimated deck's really not trying to do that anyway. So paying 3 mana for it is a bit of a steep price. And we have a lot of good sideboard cards here as well. So we have a Graph Digger's Cage, which is, of course, going to come in. That's the sort of thing this is for. A couple of Surgical Extractions, along with a couple of Snapcaster Mages, which make a nice little, a nice little utility package there.
Just go to flashback to Surgicals.
And we also have a couple of Thought Seizers. I would imagine they will be coming in as well.
Yeah, or even though it can sometimes hit the creatures by accident, it's still quite a powerful play, just cutting off options for your opponent.
Absolutely. The reanimated decks are majority spells rather than creatures, and hitting any one of them is very good because it's a deck that's trying to put an A, which is fat creatures, and a B, which are reanimation spells together through the graveyard. And if you can take them off one of those halves, which you can with the Thought Seize, then you've got smooth sailing ahead of you.
Yeah, so we can see Leon's taking out the Stifles as well, so doesn't think that the Animate Dead is an important enough target to be able to hit there, or the Grizzlebrand, and
yeah, I don't think we've even seen an Animate Dead out of that blue-black reanimated deck yet.
No, not yet.
Which I'm not sure if he's playing it. Unfortunately, we don't have that deck list in front of us, but I think that Stifle is a pretty marginal card here, and the Lightning Bolt's obviously getting removed as well. Everything being a 5/6 at the smallest, kind of means that it's just not a high value card to play here.
And then Stephen will be doing once again the same as the last match, bringing in Abrupt Decay in every single matchup. And then looks like he's planning on bringing in some Show and Tells, which is just another angle to attack the deck. So if they're focusing on his graveyard, he can just play it straight from hand instead. Yeah.
So when he was flicking through those cards, I also saw a Golgari Charm. Lovely card. A Keranos, another great one-of.
Yeah, wow.
Fantastic card. Been a while since I've seen that one. And yeah, of course, those are Abrupt Decays and Show and Tells and Pithing Needle. So quite heavily sideboarding here. A lot of cards that, there are a lot of generic answers in there, but there's a lot of generic threats in the opponent's deck, so why not bring them in?
Keranos is interesting being a 5-mana play. It's a lot of mana for a deck which usually runs only about 18 lands, so it's quite a big number to be getting to, but once it gets down, it's just impossible for Delver to deal with to some extent.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's as a 5-mana card, it's obviously a fine reanimate target, because once it's in play, smooth sailing, you take the Lightning Bolts just to remove Delvers on the opposite side of the board and that sort of thing. And you'll also take extra cards because you're playing against a mid-rangey deck that's trying to 1-for-1 you a lot.
Definitely.
Whether or not I'd be interested to hear from him what percentage of the time he actually manages to hardcast it rather than reanimate it. Obviously, it's a reasonable plan B with a 5-mana card. Even he's 18 lands short, but sometimes these things get drawn out. And
it's true, isn't it? It's not like the Delver deck where you've got 4 of them are pretending to be lands and are actually wastelands.
Yeah, yeah. And he's also got those Lotus Petals as well. So,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
bringing in a Beseiju, I think at the moment we'll see if he sticks with this configuration.
Mm.
But the Beseiju, I would say, will clearly get in here. It's probably the matchup it's here for.
Yep.
Just make sure you can hit your important spell to resolve. You know, 2 life is not that much to pay when it means you win the game. So
Yeah, definitely. So looks like we're almost done here, just making a few final changes.
yep, and we see Leon just turning all his cards the right way there.
Don't want to get called on something like
something
an
silly.
illegal deck list at this
Yeah,
time.
it's something silly like that. It happens to me all the time. I often jam in my sideboard the wrong way around and then feel like an idiot and have to do that kind of stuff. And it's a good thing to keep an eye on if you're playing in a final, something like that. I've seen a couple of them where someone's lost to a second warning or something like that, just because they were being careless, and there's a lot of pressure sometimes.
Yeah, this year's CanCon finals and Legacy with a duel on the line ended up that way with a second loss to a warning. So it's never good to see.
No, absolutely not. All right, so we have the final shuffles coming on here. So we have Leon down a game, but still, finished second in the Swiss, and he's, going to try and rip off 2 in a row here, whereas Stephen just doesn't want that to happen even a little bit.
Yeah, has to be comfortable with what his deck choice is today. From memory, he usually is a player of 4-color loam, so this is a slight departure from what he usually plays, but
Sure.
just showing the power of Brainstorm in the hands of a capable player as well.
Here we have a Chancellor again on turn 0.
Mm.
Nice little utility that he's getting off that guy there, making sure that he can do something on turn 1 without being overly disrupted.
Yeah, and it's just it's something that seems to have been stolen from the red-black reanimator list, because the red-black list picked it up early, and the blue-black deck wasn't really playing it until probably a couple of months afterwards.
Sure. One of those things, sometimes it's just a bit better to get someone else to do the testing for you.
Exactly.
And once you know it's good, you pop it in.
So
okay, we see the Ponder just trade with the Chancellor trigger there. Just spending the mana straight up front, getting it out of the way.
And he's got a Surgical Extraction in his hand, so he's going to... That's a live card now with
Absolutely.
the Ponder gone.
Yep. Interesting there. If he could have got the Surgical off, he actually could have paid the 1. But that being said, it wouldn't have helped him against Daze or something like that anyway. So I think it's a reasonable line. Leon sitting with a nice amount of disruption in hand. Another Ponder, a Delver, Surgical, and then, well, here we are, another Delver again. And he's missing that second land for the Tombstalker, but it's going to be a while anyway. So I imagine we'll see a Delver here, and then he'll try and hit a land drop at some point soon.
Yeah, it's not something that he's not too worried about the reanimated deck attacking his land base, so he's can be comfortable even with the 1 land just having it on the board the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like he's going to be, stranded by a wasteland or anything like that. How do you feel about moving into the next turn, whether you ponder or not?
Like, to some extent, I feel like you want to represent to the reanimator player that you've got some form of interaction with him, and just pretend like you've got a counterspell. And the Delver's still a reasonable enough clock that you can just have it sitting there on the board, and it's 3 damage a turn as long as it flips, which the deck's set up so it's quite likely to do so.
Yeah, you find these occasions quite a lot where a land is good for the Delver player, so they get this, a double upside turn where they can either flip the Delver or they hit their land drop, and either way they're pretty happy.
Yeah.
Seeing a flurry of Lotus.
Yeah, so Stephen being able to pay for any Spell Pierce or Daze that might show up on the other side of the board, he's...
Trips Lotus Petal there.
Exactly. Very protected on his side.
Yeah, and sticking just with the basics there as well, making sure that he doesn't get wastelanded out of this game.
Yeah, so Stephen just very carefully playing around any interaction the opponent might have, even if he doesn't have it. There's Wasteland, Daze, and Stifle that he's managed to just simultaneously play around with that.
So here's an Entomb. Let's see if this meets anything from Leon here. No,
No, we're just going to wait.
I think he
He does
seems
have
like
the
he's just
forcible
wasting
and the surgical, and
Absolutely. I think he's ready for some fight over a reanimate spell here. Pretty well set up to win something like that. So, Keranos. Here we are.
Keranos, and we've got a reader.
We'll have to have it read. Yeah, very interesting because this I don't think it's even possible to make this into a creature in this deck while it's in play.
No.
I think it needs a devotion of 5 blue and or red, and I don't think he's. I think he has like 1 blue in the deck as far as permanents are concerned,
Maybe
which is a Jace.
He's got the Jace. Yeah. Might
Okay.
have some hapless researchers floating around.
All right, so here's a Force of Will on the reanimate.
And just passes turn back.
Just passes the turn back. So not going all in on the surgical quite yet. We have another. Yeah, okay. So here's a ponder here. We're going to have a look and see what's on the top of the deck. No land for him in those top 3 cards. I think I see a Scrapping Clause.
He picked up a True Name Nemesis. There's a Wastelander, Spell Pierce, and a Delver there.
That's a Wasteland.
The new art Wasteland.
Oh,
And
tripped me up.
Wouldn't be surprised if we see that Spell Pierce. No, we're not going to try and force the Delver flip. We're just going to see if we can find something a bit more relevant to what's going on.
Yeah, I think that Leon might be feeling a little bit underprotected. Only he's down to just that single surgical extraction here. Reading the Keranos will oh yeah, mate, that's a pretty good rip off the top there with the Flooded Strand. Not too bad at all. I'm sure he's happy with that. Very quickly hit it onto play. But I'm sure he's aware that once that Keranos hits play, there's just no way he has of interacting with it at all.
Yeah, he's got the True Name Nemesis, but I feel like it's going to be a little bit slower. I think that's a Thoughtseize, which has been altered to look like the Joker.
There you go. Yeah,
And,
here we go.
Fires it off against the Force of Will and the Counselor.
One of the best things about Legacy, people taking a lot of pride in their decks, customizing it, having cards like that, like a Joker on a Thoughtseize, because why not have 2 cool things together?
Yeah, so I believe this is Rob Gascard's deck, and he actually went over to Japan and got that altered while he was over there.
Ah, classic Gascard. And here we have a hardcast Force of Will, courtesy of 2 Lotus Petals. So not really the good value play because it's still a 3-for-1, but
I think that's possibly the reason why I paid the Lotus Petals out in the first place, though, as well.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know if he had the Force at the time, but it's definitely a smart play doing so.
Yep. I wonder what card is in that last card in his hand that he was protecting there with the Force of Will, whether it was worth it.
Well, it's a Council of the Annex is the last card there, which
Oh, that's
we saw
right.
at the
We
very
actually
start
know
of
it.
the game.
Yeah, I mean, do you just let the Thoughtseize resolve there?
Yeah, you
I probably would let it resolve, I think.
just let him take the 2 life and he
yeah.
choose which card he wants in the bin.
Yeah, if he wants to pick the Chancellor, good on you.
Mm.
But, here we have a Tombstalker to keep that pressure on. Start closing out this game.
And
Really close the window for Stephen to draw out here.
Delver just doing what it does best and creatures back with interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's Force of Will in hand for Leon here. So he's looking pretty well protected with a surgical and the Force with a card to pitch to it. And it looks like, we're getting a scoop up here. Yeah, I think we've seen enough. So we're 1-1 here. And that's good. I'm glad. You need a game 3 in the finals. Make them both sweat it a little bit.
Yeah, and make sure that we're getting the best amount of value that we can out of our finals watching as well.
Absolutely. Got to squeeze them for what they're worth here. So do you think there's any extra adjustments that you'd be making into game 3 here from either of these players?
So I think Stephen's going to be doing the same thing he did last time. We're going to be on the play, so bring in the Dazes. But from the other side of the board, it's just you keep the same graveyard hate you've already got.
Yeah, looks like he's making the exact same change that we saw him make in the last round, which is Dazes for Forces. Well, according to this strategy, this seems to be like a standard sideboard choice for him. So it looks like it's something that he's nutted out over a while, and it's something that he seems to prefer to do. And this is a completely different matchup to what we saw him in last time.
Yeah, well, with the fairer matchups is the ones where you are more likely to see the Forces coming out. It's only when they've got something that you 100% need to counter that you really want to have the Force of Wills in. But
absolutely. So we saw him play 12 post in the last round. You would say that the 2-for-1 means a lot more here than it did there, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Force of Will Still a strong Magic card, but, you know, in matches like this can be a bit of a burden to pay 2 cards just to get rid of something which is essentially a 1-for-1 anyway.
Especially when it's backed up with something like Thoughtseize, and
Yeah.
just getting rid of so many cards in a short period of time can't be good for your
Absolutely.
deck.
Absolutely. Well, if you're Steven, what are you hoping to open here? What is your nut 7?
So I think it's going to be a Counselor, a Reanimate spell, and a Lotus Petal. So you can so Entomb, Swamp, Lotus Petal, Reanimate, Counselor, so he can't counter it, and force back up for the next removal spell that he plays.
Oh yeah, days now, but like he can do that as well.
So that's just the perfect.
That's living large. Okay.
I don't think anyone's beating that one, but
we'll have to have a look, see if he actually gets there. I think the same way. Leon clearly would prefer to have a couple of surgical extractions in his opening hand. Perhaps a Thoughtseize, something like that. I think one of the good things about these decks with you know, Delver Secrets and stuff like that, because you have so many generic cards, you have a lot of really cool openers, a lot of, you know, hands that can pan out, that sort of thing.
And with the 4 Ponder, 4 Brainstorm, you can just see so much of your deck as well, and just see those cards that you've got as one-offs rather than other decks like Death and Taxes, for example, where you're stuck with drawing just the 1 card per turn.
Yep, absolutely, and it also forces you to play, like, you know, 4 of each hate bear in that deck. Still a very powerful deck, of course, just because of the pure amount of hateful white weenie creatures there are in Legacy. All right, and both players are looking at their opening hands.
Yeah.
So we do see a Chancellor there.
You see the Counselor.
Okay, so it seems like it's a keep on both sides.
So we've got a Delver, a Red Blast, a Spell Pierce, a Tropical Island, and some black cards I can't quite make out. They might be Death Rights.
We will we'll see quite soon. Hopefully he moves his hand a little bit for us there.
So we've got Keranos, Entomb, Counselor, and
Card. Yeah, that we can't quite see here. I wonder if he has it, if he has the nut high.
If he does have the nut draw that I've just described. So
he's only 1 card off. So
we'll see what those last
he's got two cards to hit on, essentially. Although getting a blue mana here means likely one of those cards is something like a Careful Study or something of that ilk, rather than.
Still seems quite reasonable.
It does not seem like a bad hand at all. All right, just passes the turn, playing around Stifle.
Got a Swamp in hand with one of the other cards, and leads on a Misty Rainforest. And we do have at least one Deathrite Shaman in.
So it's like Delver and a couple of Deathrite Shamans by the look of it.
So Deathrite Shaman, obviously one of the things that you can hit with the Abrupt Decays that Steven's got in his deck before it does too much damage. But Leon elects to lead on the Delver by the look of it.
Yeah, just feeding it to the Chancellor trigger there. Getting it out of the way. So, like, presumably he wants those Deathrites down, and he'll be able to cast 2 of them in the next turn. Here we see a couple of Lotus Petals yet again.
He's a big fan of playing those cards out early. I don't know whether that might be to play around Flusterstorm or something similar. Just make sure it's not accidentally ramping up the spell there. And
okay, looks like we have a Collective Brutality, and let's see the mode. And he's opting not to discard. That's interesting.
Yeah.
He does have an Entomb in hand, so it's not like he's cut off having a threat in his graveyard. I imagine that part of this will be that he's only 1 land away from landing that Keranos, and that's presumably why he gets rid of the Red Blast as well. So there's nothing in Leon's hand that can actually disrupt that Keranos once it's in play, and it is a very effective way of beating those Deathrite Shamans.
The Spell Pierce obviously only hits non-creature spells. And
one of those corner cases where it doesn't really act like a creature, but it is.
And it's very likely going to spend a lot of time not being a creature if it does get onto the board.
So I imagine we have Steven here who's shuffling his cards in his hand quite quickly, just really hoping to top deck that next land.
Little does he know that Leon has just managed to rip a Force of Will off the top, so can deal with it anyway if it gets down.
Yeah, so an amazing draw there from Leon.
It just slams down double Deathrite, so Steven is not going to be seeing his graveyard in use anytime soon.
Absolutely not. And here's a Golgari Charm off the top.
Unfortunately, it only does neg 1, so it doesn't quite kill the Deathrite Shamans. Can deal with things like Tree Name Nemesis, though.
Yeah. So for those who need a reminder on it, Golgari Charm, a black and green instant that lets you choose one of all creatures get -1/-1, destroy target enchantment, or regenerate each creature you control. So clearly just here for the shrivel effect.
It's not for this particular matchup, but it also does hit Rest in Peace, which is probably the reason it's made it into a sideboard as well.
Oh, sure. A little bit of extra utility goes a long way on cards like that.
That's right. Leon hits him with a Thoughtseize and sees the Entomb there, which makes its way into Stephen's graveyard, and is holding up just the Force of Will Spell Pierce now.
Stephen again missing on that land. Of course, unaware that he's going to be met by a Force of Will if he actually does get to land the Keranos there, but we'll see how this one pans out. It could be better for him if he misses for a couple of turns and hits something like a Daze, so he can actually protect it as it comes down. It should lock up the game pretty tightly, I would say.
Yeah, and Leon's just keeping up the Deathrite with green mana so that if at any point there is a creature in the graveyard, he can deal with that as well.
Absolutely. So we see a Tombstalker here, and yeah, he's just gonna play that straight away. Keeps a Deathrite up to make green mana. Oh, okay. Look, he's going for attacks. All right. I think he might have missed that. He could have actually protected against a reanimate spell here, but it's really the Keranos that he needs to be worrying about, and it looks like we're going to see it this turn.
Stephen gets the final land, and I think we're about to see that Force of Will. There we go. So he plays the Keranos and is met with Force of Will.
Yep, there we go. So, it's not ever great to have your bomb countered like that. No. At the same time, though, playing a reanimated deck, very reasonable chance he can get it back out. His only problem is that he's got a short window in which to do that.
That's right. And just the Keranos is a little bit weak, obviously, just because there is a Tombstalker on the other side of the board.
Okay, sees the Deathrite Shaman on the other side of the board, and he's just going to put it away. And so we have Leon Raymond, winner of Legacy Saturdays here at General Games. And look how happy he is.
Yeah, just looks like they're talking over the plays, but he must be quite happy with the fact that he's gotten that.
Yeah, it seems like there are a couple of line choices there that they're talking over. Always good to have a little bit of post-analysis of what's going on. Hey guys, welcome back to the booth.
And well done to Leon Raymond on that game there.
So yeah, a great legacy event here at General Games this Saturday. 20 decks in the field. Definitely a large Delver contingent. A lot of people trying to play, a somewhat fair mid-rangey deck. Now that you can, there's no Sensei's Divining Top in the format anymore. Any thoughts?
No, that was definitely a great match, and it was great to see someone just showing the ins and outs of the Delver deck. Like and subscribe on our Facebook page, on the YouTube channel, and on our Twitch. We have live Legacy occasionally as well. Would love to see you back here for when we've got more content up.
All right, thanks very much, guys.